Hello and welcome. My name is Chris from ChristopherHole.com, and welcome to this whiteboard presentation where we're going to be talking about core exercises versus abdominal exercises for rehabilitation. So that might be things like lower back pain, or it could just be core strength in general. So the main aim of the video is to understand or better understand what core exercises are. And then what that will lead us to be able to do is understand what exercises are necessary or could be better for rehabilitation and things like that. Before we get to that bit though, we're going to review some of the core muscles. That will give us again a better idea of what types of exercises that we want to be doing. We're going to sort of talk a little bit about how the core functions within that. And again, that will help us understand the final bit, which is to review some core exercises for rehabilitation. We're also going to look at some potential exercises that you may want to avoid or certainly do less of, and I'll explain what they are and how to not do them when we get there. So before we get into that part, I will just mention, as I always do at the start of my videos, my social channels. So that is Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So you can come along to Twitter, which is Christopher Hole or at Christopher Hole. Facebook is Christopher Hole Training, and Instagram is Christopher Hole. So if you want to come along there, please do like and follow, answer any questions or ask any questions that you want, comment on all the posts that I put up. They're all educational based, and I try and answer what I can when I can with regards to what's been asked. Alternatively, you can come to the website, which is christopherhole.com/join, where you can join the monthly newsletter, which is all, again, video content, which is, there's some exclusive tutorials on there. There's exercises of the month. We share some of the blogs that are relevant, and we try again to educate our listeners, our viewers, our subscribers as much as we can, so you can improve your own health and fitness. And again, if you have any questions, please do fire them my way, and I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. So, coming back to the presentation, we'll go through to the first slide, which is the core muscles. Now, we've got a variety of core muscles. You've got some on the back, which is posterior, some on the front, which is anterior. You've got deeper ones, which you can't necessarily see a lot of them on here. They've got the transverse abdominis, which is one of them, but they've also got the superficial ones, which are things like rectus abdominis and external obliques and things like that. So, some of the muscles that we are talking about are, as I've mentioned, rectus abdominis, external obliques. So rectus abdominis is down the middle, external obliques is round the outside. You've then got internal obliques, which is on the inside of the external obliques. You've also got adductors to a degree. You've got the glutes. They will be quite an influential core muscle. Then you've got the quadratus lumborum, which goes from the pelvis up the lumbar spine, across the ribs and back down again, which is a major core strength, core or spine stabilizing muscle. You've got erector spinae and multifidus, which go either side of the spine, but all the way from the lumbar spine up to the, let's just say, the base of the neck, if you will. You've got latissimus dorsi, which is considered more of a, let's just say a back muscle, but it's a massive, again, core and spine stabilizing muscle. And then you've got trapezius and rhomboids, which are more towards the upper part of the back. So you've got the trapezius, which originates down here, comes all the way out to the shoulder, again all the way up into the neck, and the rhomboids, which are underneath that, which go from the shoulder blade towards the spine. So mentioning all those muscles is all well and good. Now, what exercise has done so far is it's split all those muscles up, and it's created exercises that work those muscles, let's just say, on an individual basis. They won't necessarily work on an individual basis because they are, to a degree, or some of them are connected, so some of them will be involved in some exercises and some won't. So far, what exercise has done is split the core up into its individual muscles. Now, when you start to learn about anatomy of the core and how muscles work, and certainly how the core muscles work, is the core muscles work better together. So they have been described as the whole is greater than sum of its parts. So what that basically means is these core muscles, there are more, but these core muscles that are mentioned here and the other ones that I haven't mentioned, they work better as one unit rather than as individuals. So if we're talking about stabilizing a spine or trying to build a core strength, or what would be described better would be core endurance, we want to start working these muscles as one thing. And the reason we do that is because the core works to prevent movement, not to create it. That's how the muscles are better. That's how they function better. The muscles of the arms and the legs, they are there to create movement, but the muscles of the core are there to prevent it. So the muscles of the arms and legs, they do all the movement. They are your big movers. You've then got the muscles of the core and the muscles of the spine, which are there to stabilize and hold strong, if you will. So that's how we then need to start thinking about the exercises that we do for them. So splitting them up into individual parts is not necessarily effective. And when we come on to the second slide, I'll be able to explain why. So when we're talking about core exercises and what I call abdominal exercises, now there are different exercises, because obviously there are back, there are oblique exercises, if you will, and sort of all the way around the core. So the way exercise has done it so far, it's split them all up. So we do a crunch forward for abdominals, we do some back extensions for the back muscles, and we do some oblique twists or bends for the sides and the obliques of your body or of your core. Now, one example of that type of exercise is with this piece of kit here. Now, rehabilitation devices such as this attempt to isolate lumbar motion by extending against a resistance pad but create simultaneous lumbar compression. So what that's saying is certainly this exercise, and it will to a degree overlap into other exercises, what's happening is the muscles are being isolated, so they're working on an individual basis. But what you also get on this is you get a simultaneous lumbar compression. So the discs of the lumbar spine, they become compressed. And what was found is we found that replicating the full range of motion from full flexion, which is bending forward, from full flexion, which is bending forward, to neutral, and using the compressive loads of this device were powerful combinations to produce disc herniation. So what that's basically saying is this piece of kit and this exercise, or certainly this piece of kit, is a powerful influence or contributing factor, if you will, for disc herniation. So what's being taught in the fitness industry or in the health industry is that back extensions are good for your back. Yes, it might activate that one muscle, but what it's doing as a side effect, if you will, it's building compression in the lumbar vertebrae and it's moving you towards a disc herniation. So it's not necessarily the most effective exercise that you can be doing. And to continue on from that, if you then look at the text from that, it says, amazingly, some people are trained on this type of machine, even those known with disc herniations. So what we are doing as an industry is we're giving people who have already got a disc herniation an exercise that could potentially make their back worse, if that makes sense. So what we don't want to be doing is moving them back towards, or moving them in a direction where they're going to be going back towards the injury that they're trying to move away from. So how we do that is we use what I call static holding exercises and dynamic holding exercises. So some of the exercises you would have heard of before: planks, side planks, and bridges. Now what those exercises are designed to do, they are designed to hold the core in its position, and then it builds an endurance around. Obviously the plank, if done correctly, you get around the front of the abdominals, or around the front of the abdominal wall. You then get side planks, you get through the obliques and the quadratus lumborum, the latissimus dorsi to a degree. And then the bridge, you go through the glutes to try and strengthen up the hips. And what we're doing there is we're starting to create an exercise which starts to involve more of the muscles. When we can combine a plank and a side plank, we start to again bring the exercises together, or bring the muscles together into one unit, because that's how we then lead into dynamic exercises. Because when we talk about chops, we're talking about rotation. So what we might start doing is we might start with the the activity in the sides of the muscle, and then as we move, they move around to the front or they move around to the back. So we're not just isolating off one muscle, we're dynamically moving the tension through all the different parts of the core. So we're moving it from the front to the side, but this is in one exercise and in one movement. And if you think about functional exercise, which is what I've talked about in past videos that I've done, is functional exercise is there to help develop your everyday function. It's not necessarily there to replicate everyday movement. So with chops and an exercise, what I call around the world, which is basically spinning a kettlebell around you and transferring it from hand to hand, going in front to the side, round the back, from the side, round the front. So it's basically traveling around you. Is all these exercises are there designed to involve as many muscles as possible in one go, because it's that that's going to build the endurance, and it's that that's going to build the integrity around your spine and throughout your core to be able to cope with everyday life. So when we are protecting against things like lower back pain, our body's going to be a lot more effective to do that because it's trained to do that. If you're just isolating the muscles off one at a time, it's not necessarily trained to transfer the load and the compression and the tension throughout the core. It will do its best, but because your brain isn't being trained to do it, it won't do it most effectively. So if you want to start using your core more effectively, you want to start doing core exercises like these and start moving away from what I call abdominal exercises that isolate muscles, because they're the ones that are going to move you back towards the injury that you're trying to, in a sense, get away from, if that makes sense. And the source of that information, or this text, if you will, is low back disorder, and that's by a guy who's a professor of spine biomechanics called Dr. Stuart McGill. So if you want to read that book, please do. It's a great book, it's a great read. You can go to his website, backfitpro.com, and you can get it. It's a clinical and quite technical text. So please do be warned if you do want to go and buy that. But with regards to core exercises and abdominal exercises, you want to make sure you're doing these types of exercises rather than the abdominal isolating exercises, which involved a lot of bending and twisting and rotating and things like that. So many thanks for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's given you, 1, a better idea of the anatomy of your core, 2, how it better functions, and then 3, some examples of the types of exercises that you want to start doing and some exercises that you might want to move away from. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from christopherhall.com. I will speak to you in the next video.